Welcome to the Public Sector Podcast, a podcast designed to connect you with the greatest minds in government. Enjoy.
Sophia, thank you for joining us today. To begin, can you share a little bit about your role at the Central Ohio Transit Authority?
Yes. Hi. Thanks, Michaela. Thanks for having me. My name is Sophia Mohr, and I am the Chief Innovation and Technology Officer at COTA, which is the Central Ohio Transit Authority, which is located in Columbus, Ohio. I've been here for a little over 5 years. And here, what innovation and technology includes is data and analytics, our strategic planning, IT and innovation, product management, infrastructure, and cybersecurity.
Amazing. Sounds like a very full role. So technology and AI are rapidly evolving. From your perspective, why is it so critical for public sector leaders to focus on maximizing their impact today?
Sure. I think that's a question that a lot of public sector leaders are really focused on right now. And I really think that it's about the opportunity. So much of public sector is about making sure that we're utilizing public dollars the most efficiently and optimally as we can. And I think that's where AI can really come in, is that we have to be able to take advantage of that because this, especially in Columbus, Ohio, which is a growing city, we're being asked to do even more. And we're trying to do this optimally as possible, and we need to make sure that we take advantage of that. And when you think about what we are as a public entity, it's providing service to our community. And just like any private entity, we should be looking at what are some ways that we can make this organization run better for the Central Ohio community and our customers.
No, absolutely. So how do you see AI's role changing in government over the next few years? And are there any major risks or misconceptions that leaders should be aware of?
I think that this is something that public sector is really dealing with, is what does it mean to implement AI, making sure that we focus on all the privacy issues that might be involved with that and that we've implemented it in the right way. So those are some of the probably risks and challenges that we have. But I think that the way I see it is that I think public entities know that we have to adopt it, that we don't have a choice. Not necessarily be only internally, but the vendors that we deal with externally will already be using it. So if we're going to be using those vendors, we need to understand AI. We need to understand how it's being used, even just from how the data is going to be used, how cybersecurity might be impacted on it. So I think it's not really going to be a choice that we're going to have to look at it and implement it. To the extent it's going to be, up to each of their own entities. But I think it's going to be, even though public entities usually are a follower of privates, and that's definitely going to be the case here, I think that we're not going to be far behind because we're not going to have a choice to do so. So I think it's just going to be really important. Now, I think one thing that everyone has talked about as a misconception is that it's going to replace jobs. I don't see it that way right now because I think we're just going to be asked to do more and more. We're going to be asked to look at data more, understand our customers more, run more efficiently. So I think it's just going to allow our roles to be better. And really focusing on the expertise and knowledge of providing our service to the organization. So I do think for right now, anyway, that's a misconception that jobs will disappear. I think jobs will change. I think what we're going to be asked to do is going to be changing. But I think it's something that it's not that AI is going to replace everything that we have. And like I said, because of vendors, we're going to have to look at AI, but I think also because of cybersecurity, a lot of those who are looking to create issues for us are going to be using cybersecurity, are going to be using AI against us in a cybersecurity realm. And this is just another way where organizations will need to be prepared and understand how those tools are being used, how we can utilize them, and put those defenses in place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's value add. I think that AI can be value add, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in public transit, technology plays a huge role in efficiency and service delivery. What are some key lessons from your experience that other public sector leaders, whether in healthcare, local government, or state agencies, can apply?
I think technology is something that has really changed the whole public sector. Public sector has always been about providing a certain service, and in our instance, public transit. But what public sector hasn't had to do as much is understand how technology is going to be a key player in that. I can say in the 5 years that I've been here is that technology is now almost in every single project that we work on, and that wasn't necessarily the case in the past. So it's really been important. So some of the things I can give as examples, we now allow for digital fare payments. So of course we still continue to take cash, but we're also looking at digital payments, understanding where your vehicle is, understanding if there's going to be delays on the vehicle. As we look into the future, we're looking at things such as traffic signal prioritization or TSP. So how can we run our system more efficiently with existing traffic? And I think that's where technology is going to be really important. So I think a lot of the standard things that you would imagine to help with efficiencies, but now technology is a key piece of running our service. I often say each of our buses is a rolling data center. They all have a router, they have Wi-Fi, they have cameras, they have all sorts of things to make sure that the vehicle is running and we know where those vehicles are. So it's really a rolling data center that is really important for how the whole system runs and how we can really support the community.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I guess on the topic of data, AI and data analytics are transforming how we manage operations and serve citizens. Taking on from what you've just said, what are some of the most exciting opportunities you see in leveraging these tools for better public services?
Like I just talked about with our vehicles being rolling data centers, with that, we're collecting a lot of data about how people are moving, not individuals, but as a community. And I think that's where the data and analytics is really important. And this is where I'm talking about doing more with less, is that we're going to be able to understand how people move. We're going to understand where the needs are. We're going to understand how the vehicle is performing. So with all of that information coming in and us being that connected to how our system is working, we're going to really need to leverage that data and analytics to understand how can we provide the optimal service. How are people moving? Have the times that they're changing are moving? Are we keeping with our on-time performance? Are our vehicles running optimally? Are we proactively seeing that a certain thing might need some maintenance rather than having it happen on the roads? All of these different things are going to provide better solutions, a better service for our customers, and let us run a little bit more efficiently. So I'm really excited about all of this data will bring us and how we're going to be able to, again, provide that better customer service and run a better system.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in some ways on that, many public sector agencies struggle to balance immediate operational needs with those long-term technology investments. How can leaders make strategic choices that don't just solve today's problems, but also set them up for future success?
This is a great question to answer because CODA has recently gone through that. As I mentioned very briefly, Columbus, Ohio is a growing area. We're one of the fastest growing regions in the United States. We're the 14th largest in the United States, and we're expected to be a home of over 3 million by 2050. So in last November, we just passed a public transit proposition for an $8 billion transit initiative that will allow us to expand where CODA is going for public transportation. It's going to offer 45% more transit. So I think one of the things that we've been really great about in the Central Ohio community is we know that we need to expand, and we know that we need long-term investments in the community, and that also obviously includes technology investments as well. So we have really set ourselves up for the next 25 years. And I would say that, public sector, again, it's becoming, of course, the service is a given, but we now have to think about the strategy and where your community is going in the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And then how do we set ourselves up for that? I think really having the organization create a technology roadmap is really important. Because for so long, I think that technology was one of those things that was kind of a nice to have and not a must have. Well, now technology is a must have. And many of the things that an organization may want to implement is going to rely on technology. So I really challenge people to have that roadmap, and you start with 3 to 5 years of where do you want to be 3 to 5 years from now? How do you want that organization to run? And what problems do you see solving at that? For us, it was population growth and the expansion of the area. And what Columbus prides itself very much in is making sure that everyone has access to those opportunities. And one of the things that limits people from those opportunities is a lack of transportation. So for us, transportation was really important, which is why we had that levy passed. We know technology is going to be a part of it. And I think you really have to think about how, as a public entity in the public sector, that you're going to support, where your community will be, what your service needs to provide, and making sure that you're thinking about everyone, right? Those who rely for us, those who rely on public transit as their primary source of transportation, and those that might be using it as a secondary type of transportation. It's really important that we think big here. And if it seems overwhelming, start small. Start with a pilot project. Really think about like how you can start rolling that out in other parts of the organization. I think is really important. But I think ignoring it is not something that public sector can do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that question is attached is how do you measure whether a technology investment is truly benefiting the people that it was meant to serve?
For us, I think number one is how it's impacting our customers and how it's impacting our community. How is it being used? We are constantly surveying our customers to understand how our service is being perceived and used and what customers are looking for. Because we want to make sure that we provide the best service that we can provide and understand how we can expand it. So for us, for example, when I talked about digital payment, we're looking at how much people are using digital payment, how much people are using, when our next vehicle is going to arrive, our on-time performance. We're measuring all that. We're looking at it on a very frequently basis. We're always tracking our own performance to understand how we're performing. And I think it's a huge thing. And our customers let us know, right? We know that when we're not performing. And so it's important for us to be proactive and using that data to see how it's impacting them.
Yeah, absolutely. And final question is, you're speaking on a panel at our Government Innovation Showcase in Ohio in May. It's called Maximizing the Impact of Technology, Data and AI Applications. What key insights do you hope that will be taken away from this panel?
I think some key insights is if people are still having fears about AI, is that we can really talk about that and get them, even if it's a small pilot project. I think it's important for them to think about it. It's important for them to take away from this session and saying, okay, I have to try something. Because as a public servant, it is our responsibility to do so. But it can be daunting. So looking at ways to try. I think other things is really thinking of your organization as technology is going to help your organization, and that technology needs to be part of your strategy. I don't think in public sector we've talked about that as much, but I see that changing. That technology is really a key part of that strategy, and making that roadmap for the organization is really going to make that entity stand out if they can embrace it and harness that strategic roadmap.
Mm. Awesome. Hey, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Want to hear more like this? Go to publicsectornetwork.co and sign up today for more free content.